Hello, Assalamu alaikum. I'm Tahseen and I'm inviting you to the second episode of Slice of TSC. Now, as you know, during the first episode, we reviewed one comic book, a Bangladeshi comic book, and today also we'll review another comic book. In particular, Shabash, the atomic mango-powered superhero from the one and only Mighty Punch Studios. Now, this issue was brought to you by Samir, Fahim, Mishu, and Nipu. The first time Mishu's on board, and we hope to see him more in the future. It costs only Taka 130 or USD $2 and came out just a few days back, and I was very excited to grab my copy. And as you can see, they've still got the plastic protective covers here, so it's actually good for preserving your comic book. Now let me give you an idea about what the story is like. It's about this one particular security company CEO who's worried about the overall conditions in the country, the safeties and overall standards, thugs and robberies, everything's happening out at large and he cannot do anything. Murders happening in broad daylight or even the contamination of foods and other food items. He is not being able to do anything in spite of offering corporate security to those companies. So what does he do? He actually works out all by himself, becomes this buff chess guy, and then starts fighting crime in the streets, just like any Bangla movie superhero. So imagine then Shabash one day meeting this guy, and they first time they come together, and of course there's this conflict. The way they work, that's totally different. So one does not approve of the other's way of working, but later they see one common enemy and then understand that they're not the enemies, but the people who do evil, who are corrupting this society. Those are the evil people who need to be confronted, and that's what brings them together. They fight crime together and ultimately become the champs of the society. That's the story. Yes, friends, Shabash and Captain Katal, the new protagonist, the two superheroes from Bangladesh, join together now. The main feature in this story is the introduction of a new superhero. Not Peara, not Komala, but Captain Katal, who drinks Katal shakes and then beats the daylights out of goons and thugs in the streets. So he's protecting the streets in Bangladesh, and for a time Shabash actually feels redundant. But then again, he has his things to worry about as well. The story is a mix of comedy and action, as is the case in all the previous Shabash episodes. The characters are shown to have flaws, both the protagonists. So Shabash is shown to be lazy, laid-back type of superhero, while on the other hand, this particular Captain Katal is about directly going to business and beating so much that all the goons might be even hospitalized. He won't care. He would rather put them in hospitals than in jail. But once we are introduced to the villain, it becomes a bit predictable. But thanks to some wonderful dialogues and comedy moments, those does not dull the overall narration, and you want to finish the story. And till the end, there are wonderful moments. Now about the art, this book is consistent with the previous Shabash issues as well. The artwork is Johnny Bravo meets Powerpuff Girls. As you can see, the cartoony characters with rectangular or round shaped mouths are the highlight of this issue. But what is more interesting is that in the last few pages there is this panel where Captain Katal is hallucinating, owing to something which you will find out once you read it. But this is a change, a breath of fresh air from the overall artwork level in this issue. But I would say this actually is consistent with the overall comedy feel and goes really well. The light tone, that's interesting. What I liked about this comic more is that it addresses an issue which is prevalent in Bangladesh and which needs to be addressed right now, otherwise we are in deep trouble. Of course, I don't want to give you any spoilers, you'd have to read it. And the second thing is that from the very first page, they're building towards a Batman-esque atmosphere, which is interesting. DC fans would love it. And even in the second page, there's this wonderful dialogue and scene where we see a butler coming with a katal shake for Mr. Captain Katal, and he's saying, "Thank you, Kudus." This is the Alfred version, the Bangladeshi version of Alfred, which is crazy. But imagine it, I would say. Creativity marks for that. The comedy is throughout this comic book, which is an interesting thing. But what I liked another part of is that KVS, totally similar to the Batman versus Superman, not versus really, using V and not versus, which is similar to the technique used in the movie. Because it's not a versus movie there, and this also is not a versus comic. Later they actually work against the villain together. And see, here also, they've got this fruits of justice, not dawn of justice. They have used that, the themes of Batman vs Superman. But it's very interesting to see here a mango, powered mango, and here the katal. They're merging together to form the fruits of justice. And overall, the best thing I love about Shabash comics is that they're the only comics from Bangladesh who come up with the title, the proper title, Shabash Atomic Mango Powered Superhero, instead of going for the story arcs to be the names of the titles, which is not the case, which should not be the case. They have actually started with this trend. Hopefully others would follow soon. Now, what I did not like about this comic book is, first of all, imagine if you had not been a DC fan, did not know about Batman or Alfred, would you have been able to relate to this scene? Would have been hard. Who's Alfred, by the way? You probably would have asked. There are 2 or 3 other scenes, like here in the last part even, when Captain Katal is hallucinating here, and this is also a technique used by Batman's villain Scarecrow. Fear gas actually actually makes the Batman hallucinate, and this is also happening in case of Katal. But unless you know about these things from DC Comics, you might not be able to relate to those. And another thing is that the villain's outfit. Now look at this villain here. Let me get this. Okay. This is the villain, okay? So this guy is in an Iron Man type of suit, but he beats him with a crowbar first. Of course, I can get the Joker reference, but someone who as strong wearing that armor, you don't need a crowbar, for God's sake. And finally, there's this supporting character in the Shabash comic books called Kiran. He's actually a neighbor of Shabash who also knows about Shabash and his secret. But nowhere in the comic book, he only appears in 3 or 4 panels, but nowhere would Shabash call him Kiran. As a result of which, for people who are reading this as the first Shabash episode, they won't know who this guy is. Who's this kid talking? Just a passerby or anything. No, you don't know. Maybe Mighty Punch Studios can introduce a profile page in the back cover, not in the back cover, maybe in the inside cover, the first page, in the second page, where they can give a list of the main characters and their names on who they are, a short 2 or 3 sentence profile. That would help. I would suggest that. But overall, the branding is nice and everything's good. So I actually prefer this comic, like many other Bangladeshi comics. So there is my review for Katal vs Shabash, Fruits of Justice. Now, I don't have mango or jackfruit Katal for that, but I have one fruit which actually does justice to me, which is banana. I love bananas. And here, I am going to rate this comic using this banana, my favorite fruit. After reading this issue, I would say that I'm gonna give this particular issue 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half. 4.5 stars. There you go. That's my review for Katal vs Shabash, Fruits of Justice. Now I'm gonna do justice to this. You also do justice to the people around you. And don't ever promote formalin injected fruits. Bye bye, until next time.